Hello and welcome. Welcome. It's another wonderful Thursday, and we're so happy to be here. So, I'm Amber. I'm going to take your questions, but much more importantly, we have the wonderful Gabriela Hernandez. Yay!
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome. Today we're going to go back to our um, antique talks
Yeah.
and talk about some interesting things. And I wanted to talk about shadow because I mentioned in another live that the shadows is something that it's very hard to come by, and I don't have a lot in my collection, and there's a reason for that. So I wanted to go back a little bit and show you what I do have in my collection for really antique shadows, and then what kind of shadows are made, and just talk about shadows in general today in our talk, and see how they kind of made their own shadow. People used to make their own shadow before they were commercially available, and even during the time that they were, just to kind of have a homemade version. So we'll show you that as well. So we will talk about all of these things. Also, one of our lovely viewers sent in a picture of a compact that she wanted more information on. So we have a little bit of something to share about that particular compact that she sent in.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful. So
so
if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, hello again. If you have any questions for Gabriella at any point, just leave them in the chat and then we will have them for her to answer. So feel free to ask at any time. And we haven't done this in a while. We'd love to see where you guys are watching from. So if you want to put where you're watching from in the comments, that would be excellent. It's always so fun to know. Okay, great.
mhm.
Thanks, Gabriella. Just really curious about where
Sure.
everyone was watching today.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, so today we're going to talk a little bit about shadows. So, as far as shading sticks or anything with color, the earliest ones were used in theatrical productions, not only here but also in Europe. And these came in sticks, basically, kind of colored sticks, and they came from a couple of companies that made them. One of them was Stein's, and I'm sure you've seen um, those kinds of stick foundations or stick colors from Stein in the past. And I I I have a color key from one of these companies that I can put up and show you, and so you can see the variety of colors that were available for theater. And there's a lot of colors in there. There's skin tones. You can see skin tones, and you can see reds, rouge colors. So all of these were available as sticks. So the performer could use them to shade and make characters wherever they needed to. So there was quite a bit of color available as far as performers were concerned, but these were not things that were sold to the public. People didn't use these kinds of products, or were familiar with them, or it wasn't really a consumer product. It was really just for the trade mostly that these were sold. So even though there were a lot of colors, it wasn't something like most people had a lot of knowledge about. But because they were being used in Europe, more shading or shadow was being used in Europe. When Elizabeth Arden traveled to France in 1912, she saw that they were using shadows, not only in performances, but some consumers were, because they were selling. There were salons there that sold cosmetic products, and they sold not a lot of colors. The only color really available first was black. Black was the only shade that you could shadow.
Wow.
So the first color, yeah, it was called Knoll Jet, and that color was available in 1907. and it was just
Wow.
basically a black cake, and black, kind of like a coal looking thing, and people would use
Yeah.
it to do shading. Then after that, and that came in like little balls, even it was just little particles of
Oh.
black. And then after that, there was a black powder in 1914 that was sold, again for shading. And you have to remember, if it was used for shading, they also would have used it in the silent films to shade the eyes for not only
Hmm.
women but men as well, to add depth to
Yeah.
the eyes. So the shading of the eyes was really mostly a kind of a Hollywood thing, to add depth to the character and to shade. They would shade the not only cheekbones but also eyes to create depth in the look of the actor,
Right.
for both men and women. So the only color, there was no really a color for that. It was just black that was used to kind of give it a depth. Um, and at the same time, people that wanted to do it, like as it came further into the 20s, they did it. They did it themselves. They did it with something called lamp black, and you can make that if you have a candle at home, and you can burn the candle and just put a plate or anything over the flame, and you can see that you get a black kind of soot there.
Hmm.
And they would take that with a brush that had some oil or Vaseline on it, and then make their own shadow from that, and then just brush it on the eye.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was yeah, that was an early homemade version of shadow, which is kind of
Wow.
fun. I mean, you could try this at home, and it's basically kind of like, but it does work, I
Yeah.
guess. For yeah, again, early makeup wasn't necessarily that sophisticated, remember?
Yeah.
So people, it wasn't as clean and pristine as makeup that we see nowadays. Um, so the
For sure.
after this, the
Let's see. I can't hear Gabriela anymore, but that's okay. Oh no. So Gabriela, just keep going. If you can't hear me, you just keep going with yours, and we'll try to see what's going on.
oh, okay.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Um, okay,
Got it.
so
Okay. Sorry about that. We're and everybody watching at home. We oh, there we go.
basically blues and greens came after the black. So blues and greens were the trying with this. Is that yeah, mom still needs blues, greens, and browns. And those were pretty much the only colors available for a very long time. Really until the 40s and the 50s is when we started to get a lot more colors available. But I wanted to show you one of the shadows that I have. I have one that's really, really early uh, shadow from that little place in France that sold shadows, and they were established actually in 1895. So this shadow is from that time period, from that same salon in Paris. And I wanted to show it to you so that you can see what the shadow looks like. Um, if we can go to a down shot, I can show it to
Gabriella,
you.
I
So
think, do you want
here's,
to? I think we're having a little bit of trouble with sound, but I think we're back. If you want to
okay,
reintroduce just what this is one more time
sure,
so people
sure,
can hear.
sure. When Elizabeth Arden actually went to France, she saw uh, this salon in places that were selling cosmetic shadows, and it's something, it was new to her because we didn't have these things in the US. Most of the lines that were producing any kind of products in the early part or of the 1900s and late 1800s were really just creams, And if they did have any color products, they were just usually just a powder and maybe a pencil in a rouge. Um,
Hmm.
but really that's about all they would offer. Shadows was not something that most companies offered until really a lot later on. You don't see most companies really offering that until the 30s, really offering shadows. And it really didn't get to like a point where a lot of people were using these. They might have used them for a special occasion, but it wasn't like most people didn't wear shadow on a daily basis until really the 50s, the late 50s. Um, so this one right here is one from that salon. Now that salon was started in 1895. So this
Wow.
shadow is from that time period. You can see it says Institut de Beauté, and it's V Merle is the brand, and it was in 26 Place Vendôme in Paris. And
Hmm.
the container is made out of paper. So it's a paper container, and it says the address. It it says Brune in the back, so it's this is supposed to be brown, but it does look very black to me, actually. So the whole thing is made out of cardboard, really. And then what you do is this little piece here, actually, you can slide it, off
Oh,
here.
I can't
Uh,
believe that's still together. It's
isn't it?
125 years old and it's
I
still
know.
functioning.
Isn't that wild?
Oh,
So this little
gosh.
piece here is it's a little cardboard piece that comes out, and look at this. It even has a little picture on the back. So they they
Wow.
uh, they put a little illustration on the back of it. They didn't even leave it without. Isn't that cute? And then it has the little flowers and the thing. And this salon was pretty famous. They had very famous clientele. The Queen actually went to this salon, and the Queen of England went to this salon. So a lot of very
Wow.
very important princesses and things are always very important people frequented this specific salon. So you can see the cake of shadow in here. So it's kind of a round, and then it has um, a little applicator in here. Let me see if I can dig
Oh.
it out. Um, it's a little stump of an applicator. See? Um,
Oh, wow.
so it's a little tiny stump that made out of paper that
Hmm.
you could use to kind of diffuse the shadow on your eye.
Wow.
Isn't that
Are
interesting?
those similar to the kind of rolled up paper you'll use with charcoal drawings and things
Yes,
today
yes,
that
is that the
smudge?
same
Yeah.
same kind of thing. Same thing. And
Wow.
then in here there's a paper base, but then the shadow is actually sitting in a little porcelain plate,
Oh,
and
wow.
and that kind of tells me that it was probably baked, because
Mm.
usually you put shadows right nowadays. They make shadows in Italy by baking them, and they have to use a little ceramic base in order to bake them. And since this has the same base, I'm thinking that this was probably baked as well.
Yeah. Wow.
And let's look at it.
Yeah,
What
it's a
color
little
is this?
exciting.
Let's see what color this is. Let me see if I have a piece of white paper here that I can
Oh,
pull up,
great.
and we can
Because
see
this
what
isn't
color this
something you'd
is.
want to put on your skin, right? Most
You
likely.
probably wouldn't. Yeah, you probably wouldn't, because who knows what's in this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably mostly charcoal of one kind or another,
Hmm.
but who knows at
Yeah.
this point. I have no idea what they made this from. But let's look at it. It's very soft. It kind of
Oh.
it kind of reminds me of big shadows now, because it is
Hmm.
very it comes off really easily. And see, when I swatch it, it's kind of
Oh,
kind of, it's black, but it does have a little bit, I guess, of a warmth to it. So I guess you could call it a very dark brown. I don't know.
is
What do
there
you
a
think?
chance that the color might have shifted
No,
over
not on
time?
this kind,
Oh
not on
no.
this kind of product because there's not much
Yeah.
to this. It's just. But you can see it is kind of brown, I guess, like really dark brown, I suppose.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's funny. There's little pieces of it look kind of brown, and then it looks more black again or gray. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I wouldn't. I
Yeah.
wouldn't think of that off the top of my head as a brown, but I.
No,
It's
but
not a
remember,
pure
yeah,
black. Yeah.
no, but remember the colorants, they didn't have a lot of colorants at this point. That's why
Yeah.
this is probably the only shadow that they made. And I don't think they probably
Wow.
made any other shades, because this is way too early to have, colorants. And if they did have any colorants they were using, they were probably not that safe, because eye safe
Yeah.
colorants didn't come into being until much, much later. So I would I would assume that they didn't have a lot of shades if they had any other than this, really.
Yeah.
Uh, but this was it for a long time. This type of product like this that would kind of
Wow.
give you some depth in the eye, and shade it. Either that or your lamp black, which usually you burned it and then you mixed it a little bit with some oil. Um, but then your colors here, you can see, like in the 1920s, you started to get these shades were one of the first ones to be made. It's like the blue,
Hmm.
like really deep blues, greens, dark greens, the browns, and then black, of course. And then they did have gold and silver. Now,
Oh.
these were made from either type of metal type shavings to get an aluminum type color,
Wow.
or they were done with the fish scales, uh,
Oh.
which which we still use today. And some shimmers are still made from fish scales. So they take the scales of the fish and they grind them up, and then that provides the kind of the iridescent quality of some
Right.
shadows. So they did make those colors with those. Um, but this is what this is pretty much all that was available in the
Hmm.
1920s. And before that, it was only like just the black. Then as you move into the 30s, it's still the same color palettes, except that the colors are a bit softer.
Hmm.
If there is a picture that Nick can put up of the shadows from a company called Leitner, and they are from the 1930s. You can see here
Yeah.
that
Oh,
they have
neat.
the same kind of shades of like a very soft violet or a grayish blue,
Hmm.
or grayed out kind of tones of greens. Um, but that was about it. Those were the only, again, shadows available. There were many more reds actually than there were other shades
Yeah.
of shadow available. Um,
And
so these were the 30s ones, really.
oh, that's lovely. And did they have is that a red eyeshadow they have there, or is it, or would that have just been a
No,
blush, the kind of
a
red?
blush. Yeah,
Hmm.
yes.
Okay.
The reddish colors on the top there are rouges. So yes,
Oh,
they would
right.
have
I
been
can see that.
blush colors. Yes, and on the bottom you have lip colors. But shadows themselves really were just these colors, like the soft violets,
Hmm.
soft grayish blues, that were usually used for people that were blonde or
Hmm.
lighter hair, blue eyes. They said if you have blue eyes, you should wear blue shadow. That was the idea back then.
Hmm.
Um, the same with the browns, browns and then greens. So for different complexions, they had different types of them, but they were kind of a little bit softer colors.
Hmm.
And then as you move into the 40s, you go into, again, the same type of shades. I mean, again, you don't have
Yeah,
a ton
didn't
of
expand too
other
much.
shades, other shades that it's like you would think. But again, this color, these products weren't that popular. You have to remember that, yeah, shadowing your eyes wasn't something that was that attractive to people, or that people thought
Hmm.
they actually needed to do their makeup, because remember they used mainly a pencil, eyebrow pencil, and that pencil could be used on the eyes as well. They kind of did double
Hmm.
duty and just used the same pencil.
Yeah.
And then they had the mascara, the cake mascara, which they did use to line the eye and also put mascara.
Yeah.
And then your powder, your rouge, and your lipstick, and that was really the whole array of products that most people would use. So shadows were really kind of, again, an optional thing. They were nice for a special occasion, like if you wanted to match it to your dress, and you had a special occasion, you might put a little bit of blue shadow, um, or a bit of green to match your outfit. And in the 30s, they used to just take that one color and just put it all the way up on the eye. Um, they
Wow.
had uh, they had uh, they had different kinds available. They had powders, but they also had cream available of these colors. But the creams were made with Vaseline and oil, so they weren't really, they were kind of more of a see-through effect. So the shadows kind of looked a little bit more of a see-through look to them, because they
Hmm.
didn't have white. They didn't have a white underbase. They
Hmm.
were just pigments. And when they put them together with the Vaseline, you kind of got a wash of color. um, it did crease though, and all of that. So they didn't have any solution for those problems, because even if they powdered them, they would have creased anyways. It's just the
Yeah.
nature of what they were using. But they didn't have any other choices at that point to make that long lasting and stay on, and all of this that we have now. So,
Anne, we had
yes.
one question from Anne.
Yeah.
She asked about the eyeshadow, about how asking if they use one color, like you just mentioned, but also was mascara and eyeshadow applied just on the, was it applied just on the top, or was it applied to the top and the bottom? Mascara or any kind of liner
No,
in the 20s to 40s.
they really discouraged putting any shadow on the bottom of the eye. They
Mm,
didn't think this was a good idea. So every brochure from all of the companies from those periods said not to put shadow underneath your eye. Even though you see a bunch of women in the cinema that have really dark, smudgy under eye
yeah.
makeup, but they didn't recommend this for a consumer. They did none of the companies that made product recommended to consumers to actually put shadows and pencils under the eye. They only said to put them on the very top,
Top.
on the top of the
Yeah.
eye, and then fade it all the way up, and make sure that it was kind of a wash of color, and it didn't have any hard lines, but it faded up
Hmm,
in the eye. That was the idea
that's
at the time.
interesting.
So in the 30s, that's what they recommended to do. In the 40s, the placement got a little bit more defined, so that it was actually on the eye or on the corner of the eye. And those ideas of like, oh, if you have eyes that are too close together, put the shadow on the end of the eye, but don't put it on
Hmm.
this side. Those type of ideas came into being as well. So in the 40s, you have a little bit more of a precise application of putting it in the crease, and putting it on the lid itself, and not necessarily all the way up the eye. So that changed a little bit in the 40s. But the color selection, again, wasn't a lot, because
Yeah.
it wasn't that popular, really. That's really the extent of it. Because if it was, all of the companies making cosmetics at that time would have jumped onto making a lot more variations of these products, and there was probably would have been a lot more selection. But there
Hmm.
wasn't, which kind of tells you that there really wasn't as much of a demand for it during those periods. So we
During
still get
those,
stuck with the basic colors.
yeah. During the
Yeah.
40s, were they still wearing pretty much just one shade of eyeshadow? As well, the
Uh,
placement was different, but were they mixing
yes.
shades as much or
Uh,
starting to do
they
that?
they could use a couple of shades, because they did have the ability to do that. They had other shades, but most people probably did not, really, because, again, it wasn't something that people were necessarily that comfortable with, or that they thought was a necessity, really. So they just, considered it, a special occasion type of issue. So,
Yeah.
uh, again, some people did use, if they went to a fancy party or something, they maybe put
Mhm.
gold. Gold was something that people would put on their lids, and make them shiny with Vaseline, and then put gold specks on
Oh.
them, things like this.
Hmm.
This was done, but it wasn't done by, like, most people. It was done, again, for special things, and, parties, something that was really kind of more glam,
Yeah.
so for that. So I finally got my candle, so I'll show you,
Oh,
how
yay.
to do, a little bit of, the lamp black here, if I can get
Oh,
this to
wow.
work. So, yeah, so you have your candle, and, if you put something, close to the flame here, close enough to the flame. I don't know if I have it close enough here, but
I feel like
usually, yeah.
you've seen that before
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah, yeah, you usually,
hmm.
you can do this by, putting a little bit of, uh anything metallic, like a spoon sometimes would
Uh-huh.
work, or, anything that you can get, uh, a the black to, yeah, a knife, a spoon, anything. I mean, let me see if I can get it close enough here, but,
And wasn't Maybelline kind of originally invented from noticing that some women were taking Vaseline and a mixture of sort of soot or maybe lamp black like this and applying it to their
yes,
eyelashes?
yes, yes, and it wasn't, terribly effective, because this would
No.
smudge all over the place. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was going to, give you a really nice look or anything, because the black would have just kind of gone all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah, my flame is not very, good today here. Unfortunately, it's a little bit weak.
Oh,
But
that's okay. That's why we've evolved evolved better ways of
yes,
of getting
yeah, better ways
eyeliner,
of
fortunately.
doing this. Yeah, yes, but usually, you can, put a candle, and get black to kind of come up here,
Sometimes it'll
and,
happen if you have a flame a little overzealous, which I do in my candles sometimes around the edge of the glass, you see
yes,
that
yes,
soot
yes.
will build
Here we
up.
go. So see,
Oh,
like
there it
this.
goes.
Uh, so
Yay.
so so see, if you have enough of a flame here, you can burn, whatever here. Spoon works, anything works. But basically, they would do this, and then they would take a little bit of, this. I have some jojoba oil. So,
Oh.
and any kind of brush. So you dip it in the oil, a little bit, and then dip it in the black here, and, there you go, your shadow. See?
Ooh, that's a
Isn't
very bold color.
it? Yeah. See?
And
Yeah.
it's a
So this
real
could,
black.
yeah. So this you could do. You could have done a liner with it. You could have, but people were using this as a mascara, or as a, as a shadow. Like, if you did this and then just applied it with a soft brush, you can also get, similar color to the black over here, but it's quite
Yeah.
quite a bit darker. See, let's look at that one here. See if I take this out of here now, and do this to it. See, I can
Oh, yeah,
get
it's
kind
very
of
similar.
kind of a similar color, but with the the black of the candle, instead of buying a shadow. But
Yeah.
basically, this is kind of how this is a homemade version of shadows before people, purge if they wanted to try it. Um,
Mhm.
and people would line their eyes with this, like they would take, the this with a little bit of this and the oil,
Mhm.
and then have something like this, and then do a liner like this. See, uh,
Wow.
and they would use it on the brows too. They could use it on brows. They could use it wherever, and it's pretty inexpensive, and
Yeah.
easy to do. Anything. Most people had this stuff at home, so it wasn't too hard to do this. And you can see it's not too far cry off of what you could buy commercially if you're talking really really early on. You know,
Yeah.
um, um, so so this is kind of like your prime, your very early shadows things. Then in the 50s we got into more shades. The one that got added in the 30s that wasn't around the 20s was violet. Violet
Mm.
is the next color to be added to the four that were available first, which was
Yeah.
blue, green, brown, and black. Then they added the violet. Then those colors became more grayish, pastelly looking.
Mhm.
And then in the 40s, you have basically the same colors, but they did add a little bit more warmth to it, because remember, people had uniforms that they were wearing. So
Right.
you had olive green, greens that would match the uniform. So you had the olive green and the brown that was a little warmer brown that would go with those colors. Um,
Right.
and then the 50s went into pastels and other colors. Like blues were really big in the 50s. You had a lot
Mhm.
of, if you have seen photos of 50s with the very dark black liner, and then the bright blue shadow. And again, that shadow went kind of really higher up. It didn't go all the way to the brow like it did in the
Mhm.
30s, but it did go kind of high up there, so that you really saw that people were wearing shadow. It was very, very
Mhm.
obvious shadow in the 50s. So if you were wearing it, you wanted people to know that you were wearing it. So these
Yeah.
were not see-through colors. They were really just full-on
Oh.
colors, and they did have a white under a base, so that the color would really just show as the color and not necessarily a wash of color.
Mhm.
So the 50s really were bold as far as like really showing shadows as shadows. And you had people
Right.
using a lot of highlight colors and things like this, like a lighter shade to highlight the brow bone, or a lighter shade to highlight the lid, and then another
Mhm.
shade on the crease. Things like this came into the 50s. And
Right.
then the 60s kind of really took off on even more dynamic looks, and really, really doing kind of a really defined crease.
Yeah.
And then adding color under the eye, adding, a lot of lash and a lot of liner, um, and very bold color choices like black and shimmery white,
Mhm.
grays, and teals, pinks. So all
Right.
of these colors that again were very, very bold, with a very much of a base on the color, so that the color was very true to what it looked like on the shadow. So it wasn't a
Mhm.
subtle shadow, but a more pronounced use of shadow.
And we
Hmm.
had a question about asking, when did bronzy shimmery eyes become popular?
I think that was around the 80s, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
That yeah, they had some in the late 60s, because there was a trend toward more natural makeup. So there was a little pot of like this kind of like reddish earth thing that they sold, and that
Oh.
kind of gave you a bronzy, kind of yeah, not shimmery, but a sheen had like a sheen to it,
Hmm.
and that was a popular uh, kind of shadow type thing. It was, you could use it for anything really, shadow, blush,
Yeah.
anything. But yeah, the late 60s had shadows like this. 60s had shimmery shadows, so they did have browns and things that had shimmer in them. So you did see that as a trend, but there were also a lot of softer shades in the 60s that people used. A lot of pastels, a lot of different types of pastels,
Hmm.
brown pastels, blue pastels, teals and green pastel colors, but really lighter shades in the 60s. And they did have shimmers. They definitely had shimmers as well. Um, but then in the 70s, you saw kind of like more bold
Hmm.
shimmers, like really strong golds, strong violets, stronger shades that were a lot bolder on the eye than the more subtle looks that you saw in the 60s or softer looks.
Excellent. That's so fascinating. It's such an interesting color evolution. It
Yes,
stayed
I
so
know, isn't
similar for
it?
so long. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, with all the variety of shadows that we have today, like so many colors,
Gosh.
it's incredible to think that, we only had one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I started out with one. It's like from one we went to like thousands of shades,
Thousand.
thousands of colors, and it's just interesting to see how it developed from something that was just kind of like a, well, it's okay, but it's nice to have, but I don't need it, to like a staple in most women's wardrobe now. That shadow is something like everybody really uses, or most people use.
Yeah, and you almost never just use one color even anymore. You almost
Yeah,
always use a blend of colors, and so that's yeah, such a
yeah.
relatively new idea.
I mean, we are going back to some people doing that. Like there is a
Hmm.
trend of using like one shade,
For
like
sure.
that you swipe through, and it's kind of like a very like a shimmery brown or something like this. That
Hmm.
it doesn't really have demarcation lines, and it's something that people just use as a one shade type of thing. So it's kind of interesting that we're going back to
Yeah.
that when we had people using 5 6 shades or at a time or more on their eyes. So it's kind of interesting how we're going back to a one shade type idea after all these years. But it's the way that fashion works, and
Yeah.
it kind of uh, expands and then it contracts again. So I think we're going into a period maybe when we're contracting a bit from the vast expansion that we've had in the last few years.
Do you have any favorite shades, yourself eyeshadow shades that you like to wear?
I'm like I'm very basic because I wear mostly just like a brown and
Hmm.
in a light color, like a bone type color,
Hmm.
and that's it. My eyes are a little bit deep set as you get older. Your eyes become more deep set eyes, so it's hard to wear shimmery things or things like this where you kind of lose the shape of the eye if you don't put the shading in the right spot. So,
Hmm.
I use it kind of like they did in the beginning, where it's just really used as shading to kind of denote where your eye socket should be if it's
Yeah.
not there. So it's yeah. So that's why for those types of techniques, I think a very neutral brown type color works the best, because that's what you're doing is just applying shading to kind of tell people where that crease is supposed to be. So it's
Yeah.
not really for color, but for shape.
Hmm.
So I tend to use kind of neutral shades. I do like color, but I like warmer shades like greens
Hmm.
and browns and you know sometimes warmer tans, colors like this.
Hmm.
I'm not too much of a blue or purple person. I
Yeah.
never was. Uh, even
Hmm.
though, as having brown eyes most of the time, that's what was, recommended. Like people would say, well, your color eyes, you should wear purple, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's never been one of my favorite shades. So I'm still not a fan of those shades. But yeah, I keep it rather neutral. But it's fun to try different things. I'm
Yeah.
open to trying them. But day in and day out, I end up wearing kind of the same colors
That's okay.
that I'm wearing. I do change my lipstick though all the time to
Yes.
different shades depending what I'm wearing. And today I'm wearing Poppins red, so this is
Oh,
Poppins.
good. Yes, we're
Yeah,
both
so
wearing
this
that
is.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it looks different on see, depending on your skin tone. It kind of like translates a little bit different,
Yeah,
but we're both
definitely.
wearing the same color. But yeah, let us know what you think of these colors. Would you wear these shades?
Yeah,
Would you wear these like really kind of turquoise 1950s blue? If it came back, even though it is kind of back in fashion, some people
yeah.
have been using in this color. Um, would you wear that shade? Would you try it out? It's kind of interesting. I tried it on, and it's kind of like it really pops out. You see that first, like
Yeah.
wow, that shadow, woo!
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
But yeah,
but it is
and
fun. It's fun.
we did have one question. Anne asked if you'd consider releasing any more 60s, 70s, or 80s inspired products.
Yeah, we are working on some 60s stuff. There is some things in the 60s that I really like. 70s and 80s I haven't really ventured too much into because the colors are really quite bold, and I just don't know if a lot of our customers would enjoy them because I would be kind of shy to use them myself. So I've been a bit more hesitant to make those particular shades. But there are a lot of 60s shades that are quite nice. So I am doing some 60s things for sure. Um, and also 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s all the time as well. But yeah, I haven't really delved into too much in the 70s and 80s.
And that's all these colors. It all depends on what you guys like and do the most. And yeah,
Yeah,
definitely gravitating towards the pre-70s is definitely
yeah.
where your strength lies, which is lovely. Wonderful. That's so great. I love we got to see a actual lamp black
Yeah,
demonstration.
lamp black.
It's
Yes. All right. Try it
and
at home.
yeah, it'll be a real mess. Yeah, putting a bunch of just
Yeah, I
oil
mean,
and
it
soot
works
right on your
really,
face,
yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah, it works better when your candle, this candle, I burned it too low, but if your candle is higher and you have a little plate or something and you just put it like this, it works pretty well. I just, this candle's a little bit worn down, so it was hard to get it close enough to the flame, but
Right.
it works pretty quickly on any surface. Really, like like I said, kind of a plate, a porcelain plate,
Hmm.
or any kind of metallic surface like a knife or a
Just
spoon,
nothing plastic.
anything like.
Please don't put
Yeah,
anything
please don't put
plastic. That
no
will
plastic.
that won't
Yeah,
work.
yeah, not plastic.
No
Yeah,
good.
no, no good. No, 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 not at all.
But anything
No,
else, yeah.
any metal or ceramic.
Porcelain.
Well, yeah, porcelain works pretty well on any of these, and then you can wash it off. I mean, it does come off of the surfaces if you wash them. Uh, but yeah, try it out and see what you think of it, and if you would,
Yeah.
and then you can think about girls in 1920s doing this in their
Yeah.
apartments, and putting this on their eyes before they go out.
Yeah. Little
so
time
so that was
travel
fun.
effect for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes, for sure.
So thank you all so much for joining us today, for all your
Oh,
comments and
one last
everything.
thing I
Oh yeah,
forgot.
go ahead.
I forgot about the compact.
Oh,
Yes, one of our viewers has
oh
sent the
yes, that you
compact.
sent in. Oh yes,
Yes,
yes.
and we do have a picture of it. I think Nick has a picture. We can put it up really quick.
Yeah.
So, this is a compact from Estee Lauder. It was made around the 50s. This is a 1950s compact. It's a brass compact, and the stones on the top are just paste. They're not real stones. So they're just a mesh of paste stones that are put on top. They used to make these with different types of stones on top. So I've seen them with little diamond ones, faux diamonds, like a mesh
Wow.
of faux diamonds on top, or
Mhm.
other configurations of a diamond and pearl, faux
Mhm.
diamond and pearl top like this. And
Right.
then the interior is for loose powder. So it has
Oh.
a compartment on it that you flip open, and then you would put the loose powder inside of that, and your puff would go on top of that. So you
Oh,
could
neat.
refill it. So these were refillable compacts that were made around that period. So it's a nicely weighted, nice brass material compact. The top is, I guess it's okay for the period. It's not, terribly high quality stones or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's not like a Swarovski or anything like that, but they're very decorative and cute, and people use them and refill them. So they were sold to refill. So you
Oh,
could,
wow.
if you do have some of these, you could put your loose powder inside. Just make sure you clean it really well, and then you could
Yeah.
put your loose powder in there and a puff and use it if you would like. So quite fun compacts if you collect them. There's, like I said, a lot of different stone configurations of these, and they're kind of a nice addition to your collection.
That's lovely. So yes, that was sent in by one of our viewers and fans. So it's so interesting to get that extra information and get to see it. Yeah, a bonus vintage item. So
Bonus,
cool.
bonus.
So cool. So yes, thank you for remembering that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you have one, yeah, if you have anything, let
yeah.
send it along, and we'll be glad to talk about it. If you have anything you don't know what it is, or you're curious about it, just send us a picture, and we'll try and figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You can send that to info@bestamecosmetics.com and
Yes,
we'll, yeah, get it to Gabriela from there. Yay, it's so wonderful.
awesome.
Excellent. So yeah, just a full day of so much vintage antique goodness today. So
Yes.
exciting. And just to let everybody up know, so the next 2 weeks are Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So I don't believe
Mhm.
we'll be having videos on those days. Gabriella, I'm pretty
No,
sure would like to
probably not.
take would like to take those days off, which is more than earned, I would say. So we won't be here on those Thursdays, just to let you know, but we will be back in the new year at the same time, Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific, and now
Yes.
on YouTube and Facebook Live. So whichever is easier for you, then no problem. You can watch us there. So thank you so much. Have a
Okay.
wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. And Gabriela, thank you so much for sharing again. And we will see
Thank
you all
you.
soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.